Hello and welcome to Elecspo, and today we're using Football Manager 2020 to make some transfer predictions. We've simulated 1 year into the future at the end of the 2020 summer transfer window, and we're going to look at every current Premier League club's most expensive signing, and that's no matter what division they're in on the simulation. It's not my problem Leeds didn't win promotion. Arsenal Wilfried Zaha, £54 million. Okay, we're off to the races straight away with a huge transfer that makes a lot of sense, but also is 100% not going to happen. Arsenal aren't going to spend that kind of money on a player, especially when they've got Willian in for a free. Zaha would certainly fit in at Arsenal, so it's a shame I don't think this one will happen, but on FM he's been the marquee rival in a wonderful summer for the Gunners, where they also signed David Silva, Clement Lenglet and João Moutinho. Arsenal fans can only dream of a summer like that. Aston Villa Ryan NYAMBE, £17.5 million. Just like in reality, Villa survived, but the summer transfer window hasn't been anything to shout about. They spent biggish money on two players, and they're both from Blackburn Rovers, which hardly screams Premier League progress. NYAMBE was the most expensive arrival, with the 22-year-old costing not far off £20 million despite a pretty uninspiring season in the Championship. And in the Premier League has been equally as uninspiring, so great business Villa. Brighton and Hove Albion, SERGINO DEST, £31.5 million. Football Manager predicted some big transfers in the summer of 2020, with the 23rd most expensive involving plucky little Brighton. The Seagulls splashed out on a new right back in June 2020, spending a club record £31.5 million on Ajax's Serginho Dest, and that's despite the fact he only played once for Ajax last season. And so far, just a few games into life in England, he's not even looked like he's worth £3 million. But it is early days and he is only a teenager, so there should be more to come in blue and white. Burnley Danny Loader for £16.25 million. Well, this is a transfer that definitely isn't happening, as Danny Loader's already completed a move this summer. He's left Reading already, signing a deal with Champions League side Porto. But on FM he's merely ventured north, joining Sean Dyche at Burnley. He's obviously one for the future, even if his early performance has been just as bad as Serginho Dest for Brighton. Chelsea Hakim Ziyech, £34.5 million. Right, well this is a load of bollocks, isn't it? Chelsea's biggest transfer according to FM is one that was pre-arranged earlier in the year, but since the database is a little older, it hasn't included another deal that was also pre-arranged, the one that brings Timo Werner to Stamford Bridge from Leipzig. So Ziyech's arrival is the biggest of the summer at £34.5 million, and it's the only money that Chelsea spent despite the ban being lifted. They're not arsed though, as Ziyech's had a great start. Crystal Palace didn't sign anyone. Okay, so Crystal Palace didn't sign a soul in the summer of 2020, and I think the reason is they got relegated. Yes, the Eagles are a championship club once again, with Big Sam unable to save them after returning to the club in January. Ah well, at least they got $50 million off Arsenal for Wilfried Zaha. Fear not Palace, you're not the only club who hasn't spent a penny in the summer of 2020, but more on that later. Everton Eberechi Eze, £13.25 million. It's rare that Everton makes sensible signings in recent years, but that's exactly what they've done here. Eberechi Eze is a man in demand this summer, having done wonders in a QPR shirt. He's clearly destined for the Premier League, and that's exactly where he is on FM. Everton are the lucky club who've got him for a rather respectable fee of £13.25 million. This was a sensible bit of business by Everton, but then they undid all the good work by agreeing a deal with a possible £16 million with add-ons for Adam Messina from Watford, Christ's sake. Fulham KIERON BOWIE for £150,000. Okay, so Fulham didn't get promoted from the Championship, meaning spending was limited at Craven Cottage. But they did spend some money, with the smallest fee in this video for a club that actually signed someone. They've looked at the future and brought in KIERON BOWIE for £150,000 from Little Wraith Rovers, or Roth Ravers if you ask Jeff Stelling. He's only 17 years old, so we'll have to sim this a few years into the future to see how he gets on. Leeds United held COSTA, £15 million. Leeds didn't get promoted either, but their biggest transfer is still £15 million for Helder Costa, since they were obliged to sign him whether they went up or not. Tough going for Leeds, but maybe they might win promotion this season and hopefully justify the investment in Costa. Leicester City Jonathan IKONE for £12.75 million. Leicester's biggest signing was less than Leeds, but at least they're in the Premier League I guess. IKONE is an astute bit of business by the Foxes, having spent the first season doing a fine job in a Lille shirt. He's yet to make his Leicester debut, but I bet they'll sell him off for big money in a few years' time, a bit like what they did with Ricardo Pereira, who's now playing for Barcelona. Liverpool Federico Chiesa, £85 million. We move on to the champions of reality and FM, and in the virtual world they've spent a shit ton of money on just 3 players. They've spent £222 million on Milan Skriniar, Memphis Depay, and the most expensive of the lot, Federico Chiesa. Those are some big signings for Liverpool, considering they haven't sold any of their famous front three yet. Depay and Chiesa have just came in to compete, now that's how you strengthen after winning a title. Chiesa enjoyed an incredible start, getting 2 goals on his Premier League debut. Manchester City Donny van de Beek for £56 million. After missing out on the title, City spent big in the summer, with £213 million spent on new players, so even then they were still behind Liverpool. But Van de Beek is one of 3 players who arrived for more than £50 million, and he's a player who would totally suit City's style and I'd love to see in the Premier League. I don't care where he goes, to be honest, as long as it's an English club. Get him to Wolves, I'm not arsed. He's joined by Camavinga and Ruben Dias as the big money arrivals, with City looking to respond under new boss Max Allegri. Aye, Pep got the sack, didn't he? Manchester United Jadon Sancho for £75 million. Every Man United fan here will be hoping Football Manager mirrors reality. Sancho is their main target this summer, but a deal seems to have slowed down because of an argument over the price. While £75 million rising to 83 was enough for Dortmund to let their English superstar go, and Man United got their new number 11, no idea why he wasn't given the number 7. Sancho started well at Man United, and it's a good job because he's got big shoes to fill as the main man at Old Trafford. That's because Paul Pogba's a goner, joining PSG for £114 million in what was the biggest deal of the summer worldwide. Newcastle United didn't sign anyone. Newcastle kinda got relegated and they haven't signed a single player. But at least Mike Ashley's gone. The Magpies are now owned by some Indian bloke and the club are listed as rich, which makes it even more baffling when they haven't signed anyone. I mean, at least Mike Ashley would bring in a load of free agents and a giant Sports Direct mug. Sheffield United James Tavernier £15.75 million. If this was a real signing, I bet it would be brilliant. James Tavernier just strikes me as a player who would suit Chris Wilder's system at Bramall Lane. But then again, £15.75 million is a fair wage for a right back who's really only rated so highly because he's handy at set pieces. Well, if he chucks in a few free kicks in at the top corner, I'm sure the Blades will be happy with their investment. Southampton Harry Wilson for £24 million. This is another sign that wouldn't be a surprise. Liverpool will get decent money for Wilson simply because he's British, and Southampton are a club that have always been linked with him. For £24 million, Southampton will want a much more consistent player, and it looks like he's off to a great start. He's contributed 3 goals in his first 4 games, and you can't ask for much more than that. Okay, you can ask for a lot more than that, but let's be realistic here, people. Tottenham Hotspur NIKOLA MILENKOVIC for £46.5 million. Jose Mourinho loves a big brute of a Serbian who can play right back and centre back. That's why Ivanovic was a hit at Chelsea, and that's why Spurs have signed NIKOLA MILENKOVIC on FM. The 22-year-old started the season at right back instead of Serge Aurier, and he's actually been pretty solid. However, I can't see Spurs spending that kind of money in reality this summer. This is Daniel Levy we're talking about. He doesn't like spending at the best of times, and this whole coronavirus thing's given him the perfect excuse. West Brom Patrick Roberts for £24 million. Once upon a time, Patrick Roberts was the next big thing in English football. Then he was a hero at Celtic, and then nothing. So the fact that newly promoted West Brom spent £24 million on him is incredible, and on top of that, the deal could rise to £30 million. If this deal happens for this kind of money in reality, I'll eat my shoe. West Ham United Leandro Trossard for £17.75 million. This is a transfer that definitely won't happen, but it would be sensible if it did. Leandro Trossard's a decent player, and less than £20 million is a decent fee. The Belgian's got a wicked right foot, and is the marquee rival in an interesting summer for West Ham, where they also signed Calvin Phillips and Shkodran Mustafi. That's right, Shkodran Mustafi. They spent actual money on Shkodran Mustafi. I'm saying out. And finally Wolves Demarai Gray for £20.5 million. We're coming to the final deal of the video and the least likely, because unless I'm missing something, Demarai Gray is in Portuguese. God, this game's a load of... So there we have it, that's every Premier League club's most expensive signing of the summer according to Football Manager 2020. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Elecspo, and until next time, we'll see you around.